Hey, what's up everybody? Today I'm going to be going over how to use OBS for a live church stream. We're going to be going over how to switch between pre-recorded videos to live host, live preaching, and back to pre-recorded, back and forth between the two, as well as how to have slides overlay during your preaching without using any other programs or tying anything in. This is all going to be done through OBS. What we're going to do is we're going to build out what our service looks like. Your service might look different than what I'm creating here, but this is the flow and the order of the service that I'm going to create. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing a countdown. I like to rename everything so I know what I'm creating. So we're starting out by creating a scene. And now within this scene, I have to choose what I want to happen in the scene. So we're going to be switching back and forth between a live video and pre-recorded video. So the live stuff is going to be coming in as a webcam signal. You can be setting up your cameras. You can be using a switcher as an HDMI going into your computer. But either way, you're going to have to select that. But for the countdown, I'm actually just going to be using a video file. So we have a video preset that we want to play. So in the sources over here, you can click this for add, or you can just right click and go add. We want a media source. So there's all these different types of things you can add. Media sources work for both video and audio. So for the countdown, all we want is one video. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to rename it. I have to rename it something different than exactly countdown. If I do countdown, I'm going to get this little pop-up, name's already in use. So you could just say countdown video, something like that. Now that I have a countdown video, it wants me to locate my file. I'm going to browse for it. When I find my countdown, I see it here, countdown video, open it. It's going to insert it here. You can set something to loop if you want. In this instance, I don't want my countdown to be looping. If you say you're playing a slide reel at the end of the service or something, you want it looping, you can click loop and it'll keep looping that way. I do want to restart the playback when the source becomes active. That's an option. You might not want that in your countdown, but I'll show you what it does a little bit later. But I'm just going to leave those settings as is, press OK. And now it starts automatically. You can see my audio right here is coming through. This is my voice in the mic. This is the countdown video. Right now, you're not able to hear anything. So what you want to do in order to be able to hear is if you go up to Edit and click Advanced Audio Properties, this pop-up is going to happen. Here, everything is set to monitor off. What that means, there's three options in each one of these. Monitor off means that the stream will be hearing it, but I won't be hearing it in my headphones. Monitor only means that I'm going to hear it, but the output has been muted. Mute output. So the stream is not going to be able to hear it. Monitor and output means both the stream will hear it and I will hear it. This is the one you want. Everything is going to always default to monitor off. The idea here is someone's probably using this program to stream video games, right? And when you're streaming a video game, you don't want to be able to hear what you're playing twice. You also don't want to be able to hear your own mic. But in this instance, for what we're using it for, we do want to hear everything. We want to be able to monitor everything. So monitor and output, I switch that to everything so I can hear what happens. So everything monitor on, now I can hear. The reason this is important too is because your desktop audio is coming through. So if, for instance, I get a Windows update or something happens and it makes a notification noise, I'll see this here. But not only will I see it, I might miss it if I can only see it, but now I'll hear it because I have the monitor turned on. But I just want to mute all desktop audio. I don't want any desktop audio happening, coming through. Don't want to be able to hear that. Now, if I rewind a little bit and I go back here and I play my countdown, you're going to be able to hear the video, which is good. I want to be able to hear everything that's going on, and I want to be able to make a note if anything wrong is coming through on the stream. So countdown video is super easy. It's just a video. Let this thing play. My next thing that we're going to put in is a live host. So we're going to add we're adding a new scene called live host. You can see it pop up here. Over here is where it's going to be. Now your setup might look a little bit different than mine. I'm actually doing this from a home computer just to show you how it's done. But you're going to want to add a video capture device. That is going to be a webcam or some sort of input into your computer that you're going to be capturing. So if you click on that video capture device, you can set it to whatever you want. We use an ATEM switcher, so I call it the ATEM. We're adding that, and now we have to select our device. You should be able to select whatever your device is in there. For the sake of this video, since I do not have a webcam on this home computer, I'm just going to use OBS virtual camera. The reason being, I want something on the screen so you can see this background. This is going to be your video setup. I'm going to do another video to show you how we set up our videos here, but your input is going to be right here. So if you have your camera set up to input right here, this is going to be, you're going to be able to see that input as this happens. Now for our setup, as the host is live and talking, we like to have some background music to make it a little bit more bumping. So if you click in here, you go add, we're going to add another media source. This time it's going to be our host background music, and we're going to create that. We're going to have to locate our file again. We're locating it. Here's my host background music. Select that, put it in here. I actually do want this to loop. I don't, when the music song ends, I want to start again, right? So I click loop. Restart playback when source becomes available is also important. We're going to press OK on that one. Now, important to note, again, once we add something, you can see the host background music right here. It is happening, but we're not hearing it because everything is always going to default to just monitor. So I'm taking this over here and I want my host background music. I want to be able to hear it. So monitor and output. Now we can hear it. Quite loud. So I want to bring that down to a level that is suitable as background music. So I'm bringing this down. So now we can hear our background music. When it gets to the end, it is going to loop and we get to play it again. The other setting that we put was, if I go back into properties, I can see these settings again. The other setting was restart playback when source becomes active. That one is important because if I go to my countdown, when my countdown ends and I click to switch to my live host, I want the background music to start automatically. Right away it started, which is good. If you turn that off, if I go into the properties and I turn restart off, what's going to happen is when I switch from this one to this one, it's resuming where it was. Putting this on will make it so that as you switch to this scene, the song starts from the beginning. For our live host, that's all that we have. You can add things, you can add images and overlays and things like that, but I'm going to show you how that's done in another area. But we just have background music with a live host at this point, and our host talks and chats. For our order of service, the next thing that we do is we have pre-recorded worship and announcements section. So again, this is similar to the countdown. We just need to add, I call this worship to announcements. And we have to add the scene. This is just another media source for us, worship to announcements. And as I browse, my worship to sermon bumper here. This is the one I'm looking for. I do not want it to loop. As you can see, you do not hear anything because everything that I add defaults to being muted. So I have to switch this to monitor and output. Now you're hearing the audio. So we have a little quick video. Service starts now, and then it goes into our time of worship. This is an 8-minute video here. You can see it's actually 9 minutes, and then it's going to play the whole way through. Once it gets to the end, I'm going to select to our next scene. That next scene for us is going to be our preaching, because this takes us all the way from worship to a time of announcements, promo videos, into our sermon bumper, and then we go into our preaching. So I'm going to add preach scene. Again, I'm going to add the same video that we had before, a video capture device. I can just use this one because it's the same, because same camera, same thing. So I don't need to create a new one this time. I'm adding the same one that we used for the live host. We don't use any background music. We just have our preaching happening. We have the preach here. So what we do is we have slides. So a way to create slides and to be able to switch it back and forth and get slides happening during the preaching. This would be your preacher, your guy's right here, your pastor's speaking. You're going to duplicate this one. And now it's created a second one for me, preach 2. They're the exact same at this point. They just have the video and your mic in here. What you're going to do is you go into sources, you're going to click add, and this time you want an image. We're going to create a new, I just call it number 1 because it changes every week. So I put them in the order that they are. So this is our first slide. It's going to ask me to browse. Here in my folder, I have slides. My first slide, slide number 1. I'm going to click that. Now what's important is when you create this slide, you have to create it with a transparent background. So we have fully transparent up here, half transparency right here, and then our image right here. And now when you, as the person is preaching behind, they'll still be able to do whatever they want to do in this area. You'll have a cool fade effect right here, so you can, but you can read over top and you can switch. And now you can switch in between these two by clicking, and you see it fades in, fades out. So now you have, as your pastor's saying what they say, you click that when it goes. When the time is done, you switch back to this one, it fades out. You can make as many of these slides as you need, whether it's 10, and you just keep clicking down them. A very convenient way to be able to view this. Now, I've been doing this whole thing with just one scene here, but if you click studio mode, it actually opens up, and now you can see this is your program, this is live, and this is your preview. So when I click now, it's my live, my program is not going to change, but the preview does change. So now I can see it, okay, that's next. So what's nice to be able to use this, especially for slides, when you click transition, it's going to now make my preview become my live. So I click this, and now this is my live, and this is the preview. So this is what the stream is seeing over here, your program. But this is nice because if I have 10 slides over here, and maybe I can't remember which one's which, or, you know, how do you know what the 9th slide is going to be? When I am live on preaching, I can go and look and say, okay, the next slide is going to be Philippians 3, verse 13. So when he goes into that verse, that's when I click transition, and now I see it. And now I can go select whatever I think my slide number 3 and see it there. I like to rename these slides based on what they are. So I would rename this, the first slide is Philippians 3. Gives me a heads up, okay, what's coming, but I can see it if I use this studio mode here. You can use studio mode through the whole thing. The main difference is you're no longer switching by clicking. You have to click one of these, and then you have to click transition, and then it will happen. Same if I want to go to my live preach, I'd have to click it here, and then go up to transition. Now, important to note, when you go to make another slide, if I duplicate this one, and I have a second slide here, we'll just call it 2 for now. It brings this over here. This is number 1. If I go and I switch this to, say, slide number 2, the problem that creates is when I go back to this one, it has changed this to slide number 2 as well. So what you actually need to do, Philippians 1, slide number 1, this is now slide number 2. I'm going to change that back to slide number 1. So number 1 coincides with slide number 1. When I go down here, I actually have to remove this. We'll delete it. And then I'm going to click add another image. I'm going to call this slide number 2. 2 is already in use. We'll call it slide 2. We're going to browse. Slide number 2 is right here. And now we have 2 different slides, Philippians 1 and 2. Both Philippians 3 verse 3, and that's a little bit confusing of an example, but you get the point. 2 different slides here to choose from. You have to create a different image on each one. If I just edit one, then it's going to edit the previous one because the source is being edited. From here on out, your service depends what you want to do. You can go back to a live service. In that case, I would duplicate my live host and say, I would call it live outro. And now, as I like to have the exact order of the service right here, so I can click from one to the next to the next. And now I'm back to my live outro. What could be difficult there, going from a live preaching to a live host outro, we like to bridge that gap a little bit. So I'm going to add a scene. This is going to be my outro video. This is the wrong order here. So if I click on it and I move the up arrow, it moves it up one. Over here I go add. And we have a media source for this. This is my outro. Click OK, browse, and I have an outro video here to bridge the gap. So the order that we like to do is, I'm going to go out of studio mode back to regular mode. We go from our preaching, we have our slides during our preaching, and then we play a quick outro video where someone's on screen talking, saying thanks for joining us. And then we go back to live and we have someone talking and chatting with background music and ask people what they thought about the sermon, keep the conversation going, that sort of thing. And the very last thing we do after our outro, we have one more video. I'm going to call this, I call it the slide reel. This just plays to fill the balance of however long our service is. If our service is an hour and we've gone 50 minutes, then this is going to roll for 10 minutes. If I have a video, I just add a video here media source, slide reel video, and I'm going to browse, and it's actually this one here, service outro. It has the same starting video, so it looked similar, but we could also loop this if we need to. Mine's actually pretty long. I've created it to be about 15 minutes. So I press OK, and now this video is going to play. I've added it. The sound is muted, so you're not hearing it right now. But this is just a looping slide reel that goes for, you can see here, about 15 minutes. And one thing I haven't covered through this is how to add audio. You might not be using a mic input like I am. You might be using the ATEM. You have to go add, and there's audio input capture. If you click that, you're going to be able to then create a new one, whatever it's called, and then you can select your devices here. If you have a different mic plugged in, or maybe you have a switcher that has audio involved, but you can select it here, and you should be able to find it here. It's also always, everything defaults to come in as muted, not muted on the stream, but muted in your ear. So you always have to go advanced, and you always have to turn on monitor and output. I set everything to monitor and output so I can hear everything. So that's an example of how to be switching back and forth from a live service, live host, live preaching to pre-recorded worship, pre-recorded countdowns, and switching back and forth with OBS, as well as having slides during the preaching. So I hope this video has helped you guys out. If you got any questions or any follow-up, let me know, and I'll hope to answer your questions. Good luck.